Peter, we're thrilled to be working with you and your team. It's going to be a really exciting and fun project. Other organizations that AmPhil helps, we have over 100 staff across the country and have helped over 1,000 nonprofits, including the Sisters of Life and Knights of Columbus, Father Mike Schmidt, Catholic Charities, St. Vincent de Paul, St. Paul's Outreach, March for Life, National Eucharistic Congress, and many others. My topic today is how to build trust with donors. And in my role with AmPhil and with Focus and many others, I have had the opportunity and blessing to hire many gift officers. And in that process, I've identified that there are 5 key traits that nearly all successful major gift officers have in common. And the reason I'm sharing that with you is because being trustworthy is the most important of these 5 traits. And today in my presentation, I'm going to be drawing on the book, The Speed of Trust by Stephen M.R. Covey, who is the son of the more famous Stephen R. Covey, as well as from many others along the way. So most of what I'm sharing is not my original thought. It's stolen from others, as most good speakers do. Trust is not a soft virtue. It's an economic driver. When trust is high, speed goes up and costs go down. This is called a trust dividend. For example, it's easier to get meetings, presentations don't have to be perfect, gift decisions don't take as long, gift agreements don't need to be as complex, reports don't need to be as onerous, and oftentimes gifts are larger. When trust is low, everything slows down and becomes more expensive. This is called a trust tax. Those areas are all the opposite. It takes longer to get a meeting, to make the ask, to close the gift. Everything needs to be perfectly documented, and oftentimes you get tester gifts instead of significant commitments. As major gift officers, every donor relationship operates on one of those 2 tracks. And today we want to learn about how to create trust dividends. Most people think of trust as just integrity. While this is true, Stephen M.R. Covey's analysis goes deeper and uncovers that trust is both character and competence, and that character is a combination of integrity and intent, while competence is a combination of capabilities and results. Let's see how this applies to major gifts. I believe most of us here, by virtue of the fact that we work for a Catholic mission, have a basic level of human decency when it comes to integrity. And donors will give you that benefit of the doubt so you don't have to prove it. However, there are areas that our work touches on that require deeper integrity, and if we don't have them, we're at risk of being hypocritical, and missing the mark subtly undermines our ability to be great development officers. And here I'd like to extend my first 2 challenges. Number 1, are you a sacrificial giver? Like most development officers and appeal writers and grant writers, and as Peter will constantly encourage you to do, you should ask people to prayerfully consider making a sacrificial gift. To invite others with integrity to do that, we also have to ask ourselves, are we giving sacrificially? I don't care if that sacrificial gift is the organization that you work for. It should be to whatever God is specifically calling you to give to, because that's what you're asking the donors to do, to discern where God is asking them to give a sacrificial gift. What's He placing on your heart? Are you bold enough to answer His call to give alms or to tithe or whatever that means for you, to be giving that sacrificial gift? My second challenge is to consider the gift of time. When donors meet with us, we're asking them to give us the gift of time. And for most of them, their most scarce resource is not money, it's time. They don't owe us that gift, it's something that they give freely. Are you willing to give them the gift of time back? I don't know any Catholic development professional who admits to wanting to treat donors like ATMs. Okay, actually I know 3 or 4. I don't like working with them very much, but I do know some. But most of us don't really know what that looks like. Well, here's what it looks like. I only go to an ATM in very specific situations, when I need money. So if we only think about donors or visit donors when we need money, that sounds an awful lot like treating them like an ATM. As a Christian, having integrity means treating the people the way that we want to be treated. And so if we want donors to freely give of our time, their time to us, we need to give our time freely to them. But what does that look like? Let me tell you a story. You might have heard Father Mike Schmitz is doing a campaign. One of the protocols that we have is when somebody gives a gift of $250 or more, we call them to thank them and ask them what inspired that gift. And our gift officer assigned to that account called up a donor who gave a $250 gift. And when he asked her what inspired that gift, she said, "My husband passed away a year ago. And I have a terrible back, most of it's metal, and I can't sleep through the night. And I'm also caring for my mother who has late-stage dementia. And when I lie awake at night, unable to sleep, I very frequently listen to Father Mike's podcast, Bible in a Year or Catechism in a Year, and he keeps me company and helps me fall back asleep and comforts me. And I just wanted to do something to tell him that I'm thankful for that." Our gift officer, his mother died of dementia, and he was very moved by her story. And over the next several months, every 3 weeks or so, he would give her a call just for a few minutes and say, "How's it going? How's your mom? How are you? How are you sleeping through the night?" Just to show her that he cared and that he was grateful for her story. In November, he called and she shared that her mom had passed away. And that was very sad. And she also said, "By the way, I'd like to give another check. I'd like to give another gift, but my handwriting is really tough. I have a hard time keeping my hand still. Could you provide me with your wiring instructions?" And we, of course, provided those wiring instructions. And then in December, we were notified that we received a $1.7 million gift from this donor who had never at any point previously given any indication that they could give a major gift. And so you see, by providing that gift of time freely, without any expectation of something in return, sometimes God does a miracle, very amazing things. How else could this look? I see these in nonprofit leaders sending texts saying, "I'm thinking about you," or "praying for you." One of my favorite things is when a development officer or a leader takes their top 20 or 60 relationships and puts them in their calendar in recurring meetings, that they remember to pray for that donor every 20 or 60 days. It allows you to contact them ahead of time and say, "Hey, I'm praying for you next week. Is there anything I can do? Any special intention?" And then it allows you afterwards to follow up and say, "Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to pray for you." That helps to build that trust, right? And to give that gift that is free. Also, sending them a thankful note just halfway through the year. It could be 3 sentences. It doesn't have to be really long. It just be 3 sentences saying, "I'm thinking about you and so grateful for you. I want you to know your partnership is important to us." It could also be taking a picture of you out in the mission field. I don't know if you noticed Peter, but he constantly has his phone out taking pictures. Now, he's usually posting that on LinkedIn. But I know he also sometimes texts those to donors and says, "Hey, I'm out here in the field helping this cause that I know is important to you, and I just wanted to let you know that the diocese is out here caring about the things that you're caring about." Those are huge and very small ways that we can give the gift of time back to our donors. But ultimately, giving the gift of time means taking time outside of, "Oh yeah, the database says this is the time of year that Mr. Johnson gives his gift, and so we should schedule a meeting and go ask him for one." That's not giving a gift of time, that's responding to our own need. Integrity in these areas leads to freedom. And having integrity in these very specific ways as a gift officer will give you more freedom to invite donors to give. It will unlock your own heart to invite people to financially partner, and it will make an incredible difference for you in your role. After integrity, the second level of character is intent. I like and I don't like the term fundraiser. It's incredibly important to an organization because if you don't raise funds, they can't afford to employ you. That's your job at the organization. It also misrepresents your true role with a donor. I believe that perhaps the best fundraiser in the Catholic Church is John Flynn, Vice President of Development at Focus. And I would venture to say that most of the presenters at this seminar have been significantly impacted by his mentorship. John gave a terrific presentation last year on the golden questions, which I recommend you watch on YouTube if you haven't seen those, that channel that Peter was talking about. When John meets with a donor, the tone of the meeting is something to behold. Personally, even though I've been on dozens and dozens of meetings with John, I would never want to turn down the opportunity to watch him work. The reason is because of his intent in a donor meeting. John knows that his primary intent is not just to raise money. His intent is to offer the donor an opportunity to store up treasure in heaven, to respond to whatever God's calling them to. John has a treasure buried in the field, and he's about to tell people where to find it. It's fantastic. And this provides him a boldness, a confidence, and a sense of wholeness born of deep integrity. John never gets flustered in a meeting, never gets nervous, doesn't care if people say yes or no, because God is behind him and he's got a treasure buried in the field, whether the person is ready to go sell all of their possessions to find it today or not. When we're in a donor meeting, what we want to be thinking is not, we're there to get their money, or even, we're there to further the mission of our own nonprofit. What we're there to do is find out if there's a good match between the organization that we represent and what God has put on the heart of the donor. In fact, we want to be thinking ourselves as philanthropic advisors, very similar to how you might think of a financial advisor. By thinking of ourselves that way, we have an adjustment in the way that we think, and we're able to ask different questions, and our discovery is able to go much deeper. When a financial advisor is working with you, it's their job, in fact, their company depends on it, to get you to invest your funds with them. And yet if they sit down with you and it's very obvious that that's their goal, you get a super creepy feeling and you say no. So what does a non-creepy financial advisor do? They ask you questions like, what are your hopes and dreams for the future? What do you want retirement to look like? Where would you love to travel someday? What keeps you up at night? What do you hope to accomplish through your investing? And then they also ask practical questions like, how much money do you currently have invested? How much money do you make a year? What would cause you to invest with our firm instead of other firms? Now, these aren't odd questions for them to ask. In fact, if they didn't ask those kind of questions, we'd say they're not very good at their job. And those are the same kind of questions that we want to be able to ask as philanthropic advisors. Questions like, what are your hopes and dreams for the church or the world? What keeps you up at night? What do you think of when you think of the future? What impact do you want to make through your giving? What organizations do you support and what do you look for in those organizations? And eventually you want to ask questions like, how much money do you give away a year? And what's the largest gift you've ever made? By asking those golden questions, you'll become a trusted advisor of the donor because that will let you know what they're looking for in an organization. And you'll be able to help them make those giving decisions. You'll know not just how to get their money, which isn't what you're there for, but how to help them fulfill the mission that God has placed on their heart. The key to being able to ask those questions is your character. It's your intent in the donor meeting. And when you rightly understand that role, it will change the way that you interact with the prospective donor. So what I want to do now, just to get the juices flowing, it's early in the morning, is that I want to give you all the opportunity to ask some of these questions. So what you're going to do is you're going to turn to the person next to you and pair up in twos. We're going to just take about 10 minutes for this exercise. And you're going to have the opportunity to ask these questions with curiosity and with the intent of having a deeper relationship to understand the person better, with no intent to close a gift at all. And so if you would, as you're going through this, if you would, as the answerer of the questions, if you would keep your answers to something like 1 to 3 minutes. Most of these questions you could probably take 20 minutes to answer, and Peter didn't give me all morning. So if you would kind of keep your questions to 1 to 3 answers, and only answer the questions they ask. If they don't ask the harder questions on here, don't bail them out, leave them hanging. And at the same time, don't be a jerk. Just be yourself. You're not trying to make this hard. Donors aren't trying to make the meetings hard on you. They wouldn't have accepted the meeting most of the time if they wanted to be a jerk. Sometimes they do. I'm not saying never. But most of the time they wouldn't. So, okay, so we're going to take 10 minutes to do this. Just pick one of you. We're only going to do it one way around, just again because of time. And so go ahead and break up and let's get started. Thank you. All right. Well, I didn't see anyone crying, so it didn't seem as though these questions were so terrible. Did anybody's partner get really mad at them for asking this question? Anybody get yelled at or told they were horrible or just a bad person for asking a question so personal like this? No. But most people love answering these kind of questions, these deeper questions. We never get asked these questions, very, very rarely. And so, what I want to really encourage you to do is to practice these questions. I can guarantee you, I've done this with many, many gift officers. And here's what I promise you, is in your next 6 meetings that you try to ask these questions, you're going to walk out of that meeting and say, it never came up. I tried and there was just never an opportunity for me to ask these questions. It's just too awkward to ask these questions. It's awkward because you've never done it before. I've taught 4 kids how to ride a bike. Every one of them, when they got on the bike the first time, they said, it's too wobbly. This is too awkward. Don't let go. And yet, after only like 15 minutes, they were like, Dad, stop holding on. I've got it. It's fine. All they needed was practice. And so I encourage you to practice. You don't have to practice with donors. You just practiced right here. Practice with people who you work with. They will love answering these questions, right? They will love, go back to the golden questions that John presented last year that I guarantee most of you looked at and said, I'm never going to ask those questions. He's nuts. And try asking them with people you work with and just practice asking those questions without intent to get money from people. And you'll start becoming more comfortable with how to ask those questions. And it will eventually get to where you can ask them in meetings also, because your intent will change. Your intent will be to be curious and to get to know people and care for them and to help them make the best philanthropic decision, rather than, aren't I just asking sneaky questions to get the most money out of them possible? I've done this on a dinner date before. People ask me, and I'm sure they ask you sometimes, or if they don't, they just don't have the courage to say, I don't even know what you do as a fundraiser. What does that even mean, right? And I said, well, I get to ask people awesome questions when I sit down with them. And they said, like what? And I started asking these questions. And they loved it. Oh my goodness. My wife didn't. It wasn't a very fun dinner date for her. But they'll walk away, your family, if you ask these questions, they'll be like, your job is awesome. I thought your job was terrible. I thought fundraising was awful. This is a cool job that you get to ask these important questions of people. And here's the thing is that asking good questions also develops trust. Science shows us this, and I'm not going to get deep into it. I'm not that amazing at science, but asking questions, especially questions that really make us think, causes neurotransmitters to surge and releases dopamine and serotonin and helps us feel engaged, and it creates firing in the brain. And when that firing happens, it creates connections, and people begin to feel like, oh wow, when I'm with you, my brain is really happy, and so I must be really happy, and so we must be friends. right? And so there's actually the human body is amazing. By asking these questions, you develop the relationship that you want with donors. But the key is having the right intent. A second way to demonstrate the intent, in addition to asking questions, and thank you, Conde, for stealing my presentation yesterday, is by showing trust yourself. One of the best ways to gain trust is to first offer people trust. Well, how do you do that? You offer trust by being vulnerable. And that's being vulnerable both yourself and in the mission. We saw this a little bit yesterday. Conde talked about sharing about his own family. The bishop talked about having a very intense, difficult conversation where he's very open, talking about the church. And one of my favorite stories about this is a friend of mine whose name is Peter. And when he's with donors, one of the first questions we ask donors most of the time is, why did you agree to meet with me? Or why do you support our mission? And they almost always ask the same question back. And how about you? How did you come to work for wherever it is? And what he often shares is, well, a number of years ago, I have 5 kids. Actually, I have 6 kids. One of them is in heaven. About X years ago, my wife and I went into our baby son's 2-year-old son's crib, and he had passed away. He had died from SIDS overnight. And in my deep sorrow from that moment, I decided I was never again going to work anywhere that didn't have significant eternal impact, because all I want to do on earth is get ready to re-meet my son in heaven. And that's why I work here. And then when he asks them questions for the rest of the meeting, because he was so vulnerable first, they have no option but to be vulnerable back, right? He threw so much trust in their lap that their only natural response could be to extend trust back to him. And when he asks questions like, what are your greatest fears? They give him real answers, not esoteric, silly answers, but deep answers, because he trusted them first. Okay, so after trust, in trust, after character comes competence. And competence comes from capabilities and results. These are things we don't think about as much when we think about trust. We don't necessarily think about capability and results. But let me just talk about this for a minute. I don't have a handyman bone in my body. If I hang a picture, it takes me an hour. It's usually crooked. I usually have to redo it. And if I were to tell you, I'm going to come and help you build a deck, you may believe that I have all of the character in the world. But if you're smart, you won't trust me to build you a deck, because I have no capability of being able to actually deliver on that. And at the same time, in results, if you had another friend who was very different from me and did have the capability of building a deck, and came over to help you build that deck and got started, tore out your old deck, and was about to help you build a new deck, and it started raining. And then the next week they came back and an emergency came up and they had to leave. And then the next week they came back and there was a tornado. And the next week they were going to come back and they got food poisoning. And the next week they came back and, oh my gosh, they forgot about something on their schedule and they weren't able to finish it that day. The next time you had to do a really big handyman project and they said, hey, I'm going to come over today and help you tear things out, your wife will not let that person come over and tear out your project, because the results last time weren't there. Even if they have integrity, intent, and capabilities, the last time the results just weren't there for you. Even if you know that they've had results other places, it wasn't there for you. So how do we demonstrate our capabilities and our results to donors? One way to demonstrate our capabilities is by deeply knowing our organization's programs and being able to match them with the donor's passions. Can you articulate the impact? Do you know your stories, the stories of impact, well enough that you can make them come alive and create emotion? Do you know the statistics that matter for your industry and for your specific organization? Do you know all those things so well that you're begging for the donor to ask? You just can't wait right? If you serve the homeless population in Arlington, are you just waiting for them to ask you a question so you can show them that you know the number of homeless people in Arlington? You want to be so ready with all that information. You want to know your organization so well that you can't wait for those questions to come up because you've got all of that memorized. You've got such deep capabilities. Another way to show our capabilities is to have sharp marketing materials. Now, this is a real fundraising paradox because no donor gives a major gift because your marketing materials move them to give. But your marketing materials are a really easy way to build trust by showing them that you have the competence to create professional, well-written, articulate products. It makes them feel like they're dealing with professionals and not somebody who's working out of their garage, which is important if you're hoping to get 6- and 7-figure gifts. The best way, though, to build trust in your capabilities is to make commitments and keep them. Keeping small promises builds big trust. Promises like, I'll email you that document by next Tuesday. Sometimes they'll ask for something, a document or a report, that I even have in my briefcase in the meeting because I came prepared and I could pull it out. And I'll intentionally leave it in there so that I can promise them that I'll email it to them by Tuesday. That way I can show them I have great credibility. It also allows me a reason to schedule a follow-up meeting so I can ask them what they thought of the document that I sent to them. But when you show them that confidence that you can follow through on what you said, it will also give them belief in your capability to go to your executive director and say, hey, this donor has problems with the way we're executing this program and would like answers. Or when you say, we don't need to put it in writing, but I'll make sure that your gift goes to this program. They'll believe you because you emailed them a report on Tuesday like you said that you would. They'll have confidence to write bigger checks because they trust you. Finally, a great way to build credibility is with results. These results can be built in two manners. One is much more in your control than the other. One is results from the mission. Donors want to see the results of their giving, the impact on your mission. Does the mission or program they funded do what it said that you said it would do? And that's why reports matter. You should provide reports whether donors ask for them or not, because showing the results build trust. Penelope Burke in her book, Donor-Centered Fundraising, she does incredible research, and donors self-report that they would like 3 things before they're asked for a new gift. After they've made their first gift or their next gift, before they give another gift, they want 3 things. One is proof or be shown that their gift went to the place that it was designated to go. That's usually a very simple acknowledgement letter. The second is to be thanked for their gift. Now, we often in the fundraising world think of the acknowledgement and the thank you as the same thing. Donors often think of those as different. The acknowledgement letter was acknowledging it went where they wanted it to go. They would like to be thanked separate from that. And then third, they want some kind of a report on what happened with their gift. After they've received those 3 things, they're ready to be asked for another gift no matter how long it's been. Even if it's only been a few weeks or a few months, you don't have to wait for another year to ask for a major gift. Even if it was a really big gift, you don't have to wait for a whole year. But you do have to give them a report on what happened with their gift, because that shows the results of what happened. You don't even have to accomplish the things that you said that you would accomplish if you're upfront and honest and provide the results. It doesn't always have to be the results that they were anticipating. The second area of results, and the one that you have a lot more control over, is fundraising results. Donors really care about our fundraising results. They care because it shows them that they're making good investments, that other people agree with those investments, that they're not alone, they're not sitting on an island, that other people are seeing the things that they're seeing, that there's positive things here. It gives them a sense of being on a team. Americans like to back underdogs, but we bet on winners, right? And so when they see your organization winning in fundraising, they want to keep growing and growing and growing their investment. It also makes it much easier when we're providing those reports on fundraising to ask for referrals, right? And so all these things become a virtuous cycle for us, right? Spinning the flywheel of being able to grow our development by building that trust, that they're like, well, boy, you keep bringing on new donors just like you brought on me. I bet you could also bring on my friend because you're bringing on all these other donors. So a quick review. Being trustworthy is critical because to being a successful gift officer, it's not just an esoteric idea of being worthy of trust, but of building a relationship with each donor that provides a trust dividend. And you can build that trust dividend first by working on yourself, on your own heart, by prayerfully considering your own giving and how you're giving your time back to donors. You build up that trust by having the right intent, which unlocks your ability to ask deeper questions and to get deeper responses from them by giving trust first. After building your character, you can then demonstrate your capabilities. And then you finally, by doing the work of showing them the results of their gift, both in mission and in fundraising. These very practical actions can help you increase your donors' trust and make it easier to get visits, to close gifts, and to be the best gift officer that you can be. And now I'd like to open it up for questions, especially if you have questions on kind of how to practically apply some of these ideas to your mission. Yes?
Can you talk a little bit about going back to ask for another gift after you just received one, especially if it's like a over several years gift?
Mm-hmm.
If you just secured that and you were like, wait, they said yes way too fast, or you want to like ask them for an additional gift, how do you go about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. The question is, if somebody made a multi-year commitment, you asked them for a multi-year commitment, they said yes so fast that you kind of went back and said, oh man, maybe I didn't ask them for enough money because they were so quick, they couldn't wait to say yes. And I'd like to offer them the opportunity to partner with us in a deeper way. How do I balance that with the fact that they made a multi-year commitment and might be thinking, oh good, I've got that taken care of. I don't have to worry about that anymore. They're set to where I've got them slotted in my brain. What you really want to do next is invest in relationship by giving them that gift of time, right? And so you want to make sure to give them 2 or 3 touches of thank you, and then provide them some kind of update on the gift that they provided. It doesn't have to be, here's a huge report on everything that happened with what, it could just be, hey, you gave that gift and here are the first 2 steps that we've made along the way. That first step might just be, we had a strategic meeting to talk about what we're going to do next and we picked these 3 things. And I wanted you to know about them first, even though this isn't public information. You're so important to us that I wanted you to know about what we talked about in this internal meeting and the next steps that we're taking, right? There was nothing in that result about like actual impact from their gift, but you're bringing them into the inner workings of your organization and the way you're getting things done, which is the same way that they get things done at their organization. But you've given them some kind of a report. You've also shown them that you're interested in bringing them deeper into your organization. And so what you're then able to do is go back to them and say, hey, I've been bringing you deeper into our organization, and I've so enjoyed getting to know more about you and more about what you're passionate about. And as I've gotten to know more about what you're passionate about, what I realized is that we had another area of our mission that I thought you would want to know about. And so I wanted to share what we're doing here in this other area of what we're working on to see if this would be of interest to you also. And you share that with them and then you say, would that be something you would also be interested in partnering with us on? Right? And so it seems to them that all you're doing is trying to draw them closer because of your shared relationship and your passion, because that is what you're doing. But it feels very natural to them. It doesn't feel like you're saying, hey, I think I under-asked you. Can I ask you for more money? Yes.
Piggyback off that, if you have board members who already know what's going on, but they're also some of the larger donors, what can you give to greater, encourage them to give more, to get involved? What can you share with them that you don't already know, that they don't already know?
Yeah. Donors, board members know so much less than you think that they know. You think that they're deeply involved in what you're doing, and what they're really doing is for 15 minutes in the parking lot before they walked in, they reviewed all the emails you sent them that they ignored. And then they walk in and do their best to make it look like they've been keeping up on everything about your organization, right? And so, yes, they're more deeply involved than most people, and maybe they've even been involved longer than you have, and so they know a lot that you don't know. But they don't know as much as you might think they do. And what they really don't know as much about is philanthropy. Oftentimes, donors and board members don't do more things because they don't know how. They don't know, you want them to refer their friends. They don't know how to do that. Nothing in their business, nothing in their personal life teaches them how to refer donors to a nonprofit where they sit on the board. So if you haven't given them very bite-sized, small, easy things to do, if you haven't written them an email for them, from them to send to their friend, they don't know how to write that email. They have no idea. It's very overwhelming, and they don't have time to do it anyway. And so same thing with the finances. You're probably very careful. Most organizations are in the board meetings. They try not, you might talk about one gift that came in, but they don't know where people sit on in the realm of giving, and you would like them to step up, and they might think that they're at the top of the pyramid, even though you're like, you were at the top of the pyramid 6 years ago, but I'm killing it in my job, and now you're like 30 percentile instead of top 10 percentile where you used to be. Go tell them and sit down with them and say, hey, we've had such amazing success over the last 3 years. We now have 15 people giving at this dollar amount that's much higher than your dollar amount. That you think that they know that you're raising more money, and they don't know that you're raising more money, or they haven't processed enough to know that they used to be giving a large percent of your budget. Because you've grown so much, you've done so much, they're not giving as large, and you'd like them to step up. And I would just walk them through it a lot slower than a board meeting allows you to walk them through it. Those would be my first thoughts. Yes.
Working with a potentially donor, who is the son of a owner of a religious company in our area. I had a conversation with him and parents about going to our local Catholic school. They're very analytical.
Mm-hmm.
I keep trying to bring it back to more towards our story, towards more the feeling part of it, but they just want to get to the numbers. Obviously, the numbers aren't as flattering as I'd like them to be. So what would you say would be the best course of action?
Yeah, the question is, he's got a potential donor and their son who are considering giving a gift. They might like to give a gift, but they're very analytical. And so he keeps trying to bring them back to the story, but they keep coming back to the numbers. And the numbers actually aren't as glorious as he would like them to be. And so the concern is that won't lead them to make the gift that you would like them to give. And so showing them those numbers aren't as compelling. And so how do we navigate that situation, right? The first thing that comes to my mind is to be a little bit more transparent with them than you would be otherwise, right? That one of the reasons that we're asking for people's gift for their partnership is not just because we're perfect already and we want their gift so we can continue to be perfect. We're asking for their gift because we want to improve and we think they could help us to improve, right? And so I would show them the numbers that they want to see. And depending on how far off you are, maybe it's so far off that you're like, oh man, this is too terrible. But I would say, and here's our glide path for what we'd like to do to be better and what getting better would look like to us. And what we're doing is we're inviting you to help us to get better. And so your kind of feeling is, I have to show them that I'm perfect, and that's why they would give. And I would say an analytical person very frequently wants to show that they're their look at analytics showed you that you could be better. Because their feeling is that, many analytical people's feeling is that you're just working on emotion and you're missing all the important stuff, the analysis. And so show them that you care about those analytics, and those are things that you want to get better at, are those numbers, and their gift will help you get there. Now, if that's not the case at all, that their gift won't help you get there, that's where it gets a little bit more tricky in terms of figuring that out. And so we'd have to talk about that a little bit deeper. Yeah. Yes.
Donor Bro, the Military Archdiocese. One thing, Chris, first of all, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
One of the things that really resonated with me in your talk was the idea of showing vulnerability and to build trust. I'm probably older than most of the people in this room when I came to this to this job as being a gift officer. And a lot of times when I'm talking to donors, so what is it that you do? And I'll say, well, I'm a beggar. I'm a beggar for Christ. There's nothing more vulnerable than a beggar, but I noticed yesterday my hero, and I'm so grateful to Peter and to Colleen for the opportunity to be here to meet Bishop Olmsted. I mean, what an incredible spiritual father he is. But he used the word beggar yesterday. In talking about those 40 visits with donors, and if he himself sees himself in that context, that comes to them in humility and transparency to have that authentic connection, relationship with them, I think that's kind of a great sort of disposition to be in, prayerfully to come to them as a beggar and vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
So I just appreciated that.
Yeah, great. I love that. One of the things you'll see, you might have noticed I left the room during the little exercise. When I walk around during exercises, people tell me I look like a drill sergeant and they feel like I'm being judged, so I can't stay in the room. But one of the things that's tricky about being a beggar, right, is it depends on what you think of when you think of a beggar. If what you think of is I'm just a panhandler who looks like they're an alcoholic, that's not what you should be thinking of yourself as, right? When St. Francis would go and beg, or when I meet the Little Sisters of the Poor or the Missionaries of Charity, when they go and beg, it does not look like a panhandler. It does not look like that at all, right? There are many stories of Mother Teresa who was very clear that she was a beggar. People would offer her money and she said, I won't take your money until you come and serve the poor with me. Right? And so being a beggar does not mean being self-deprecating. It does not mean a lack of confidence. But being a beggar shows that you have a deep humility, right? And that you also know that the person that you're meeting with is a benefactor. At Focus, we didn't call them donors, we called them benefactors because they weren't just giving us their money, they were partners with us. And we had a particular relationship with them as benefactors and things that we owed them for being benevolent. And I think some of those words matter for us when we're working on different things. But those aren't the common words, so I don't typically use them. So I think that's a great point. Thank you. Yes.
Presentation. I said to Celia 5 minutes in, this is one of the best ones.
Oh, that's nice.
Your language and the integrity, those are just really important to me, and I think on field.
To your point about the fundraising results, how would you tackle a donor who, you say, we're $1 million short of our goal this year, however you would say that, and or you're publishing your reports and they see that. I hear what you're saying about these are great results, but I can't go to a donor that says, it looks like you don't need me because you're doing really well.
So let me make sure I understand, because I heard one thing at the beginning and a different thing at the end. One, I heard we're $1 million short, and so we kind of desperately need your help. And then at the end, I heard they feel like we really don't need them. So which question am I answering?
I guess the second.
If they feel like we really don't need them?
You're publishing your
Yeah.
results. I mean, everybody does want to be back a winner,
Mm-hmm.
but if you are, I have had donors say, it looks like you're doing well, or I like a startup, so they're moving on.
Yes.
Things like that.
Yes. One thing that I would say is you're going to lose some, if you're really successful, you are going to lose some donors. Focus encounters this over and over. There are many of the original donors still love Focus deeply, but they like startup organizations, and Focus has gotten so large that they're like, you're not startup anymore. You're kind of the behemoth, and that's kind of the thing that I don't like to give to. And they're not wrong in some of that. Now, one of the things that Focus works hard on to do is say, yes, but we're starting this new program that is a startup. So would you support this new thing, right? And so you show them a small part of what you're doing, because if you're growing that much in your fundraising, it's because your mission is successful. Very few organizations can grow their fundraising a bunch without actually being good at what they're doing. And so therefore you're innovating. And so what you want to be doing is showing those donors the innovative things that you're doing in mission that may be smaller, but sometimes you can actually ask them for an even bigger gift because they've seen your results over here when you did innovative things. And so I would show them a smaller part of what you're doing that's innovative and ask for a designated gift in that part so that they feel like it's separate from the behemoth that you are now. I think we have time for one more. Okay, over here.
How do you handle when you really don't want that's giving and says, okay, I need to give this gift, but then I'm done? How do you kind of manage that relationship? You might know that they have capacity.
Yeah. I would want to ask questions as to why they're thinking just one gift and done, right? Sometimes that can be a little bit tricky. What I would say is, first of all, I would just never accept that. One gift and done. John Flynn always says a no is just a slow yes. And so what I would do, depending on the donor, this is a tricky question to ask because it's so personal to why they would ask. For many donors, I would ask them, why are you thinking that way? What if we blow you away with what we do with your gift and you have the best experience of giving you've ever had before? Why would you ever only want to give one gift if you have the best giving experience you ever have? And I might challenge them in their own way of thinking in that. Oftentimes when I've encountered those situations, they're pretty honest with me and they say, I really don't like what you're doing. I actually don't even like the Catholic Church. I'm only giving you this gift because my friend wanted me to. And so I'm giving this gift out of obligation to them and I'm done after that. And you know what? In those situations, the truth is that my role changes. I'm no longer a development officer. I'm now just a missionary. My role is to give them such an amazing giving experience that they might reconsider their relationship with the Catholic Church or with Jesus, not how do I get them to reconsider giving a second gift? Because the only avenue to them giving a second gift is for them to reconsider their relationship with Christ, right? In other situations, it's by doing all of those things that we just talked about, showing them that you care about them as a person, showing them the results of their giving, and giving them the best giving experience that they've ever had, to where they themselves would be like, well, I told them that because I wanted to hedge my bet. That's often what they're doing, is hedging their bet so that they're not automatically signed up to give you an annual gift from now on. But if you do a fantastic job, you can overcome that hedged bet. So, thank you all for having me. It was great to be here.